All right, let me show you our baby. With that, Victoria pulled back the stroller cover to show me. Inside was a baby who had probably just been born, sleeping peacefully.
She's adorable, right? Don't get jealous now, infertile woman.
Victoria, whom I had cherished like a little sister, had stolen my beloved Frank. He had betrayed me, and the child I couldn't have ended up with Victoria. Back then, I was in complete despair. But now I can tell my past self this. If you keep living honestly, miracles will come your way. I'm Mary, and I just turned 32 this year. When I mention that my hobbies are reading and embroidery, people often assume I come from a wealthy family, but I was born into a very average household. If anything stands out, it's probably that there's a 12-year age gap between me and my older brother, David. I'm not materialistic and only spend money on my hobbies. When it comes to clothes and makeup, I've always felt that as long as I look clean, that's enough. Ever since I was young, I've been the type who could be kindly described as modest or less kindly plain. The person who accepted me for who I am and proposed to me is Frank. He used to be a regular customer at the bookstore where I worked. Most of the books he bought perfectly matched my tastes, and as we got to know each other, we discovered we were the same age, which helped us grow close quickly. Frank works at a prestigious company and is quite successful. But since he attended an all-boys school and wasn't particular about his appearance, he'd never caught much attention from women. However, on the day before our wedding, I was shocked when I saw him after his trip to the salon. Standing tall with neat hair and eyebrows and swapping his clunky glasses for contacts, he looked like a dashing heartthrob straight out of a TV show. At the ceremony, his transformation left the guests buzzing, but at his core, he remained the same genuine, slightly awkward man who treasures me deeply. Our married life started off smoothly. However, as a year went by and I still wasn't able to get pregnant, a shadow began to creep over our happy days. I decided to visit a gynecologist, but they didn't find any issues with my body. So, I suggested Frank go for a checkup, but he brushed it off, saying he was too busy. I understood he probably had his pride as a man, but if there was something treatable, I wanted to work through it together. It's not that I disliked the idea of just the two of us, but if there was a chance, I truly wanted to have children. Still, no matter how many times I pleaded, it felt like hitting a brick wall. As I was growing weary of pushing him to get checked, my niece Victoria moved into an apartment nearby. Victoria, the only daughter of my brother, David and Karen, had recently graduated from a community college and moved to this area to work at a nearby clothing store.
Please look after Victoria as your new neighbor.
She came by to greet us, accompanied by David and Karen, who had likely helped her with the move. As always, Victoria was dazzling. Her polished appearance was clearly inherited from Karen, who used to be a model. Thanks to her charm, Victoria had been doted on by everyone since she was little. To me, she felt like a cute little sister, but now I found her a bit hard to deal with. That's because starting about 5 years ago, Victoria began mocking my lack of interest in appearances.
You're so bad at makeup, Mary. With your tan skin, you should really stop using that cool toned lipstick. And that outfit. So tacky. Did you get it from a supermarket? Want me to give you some of my old clothes?
She would say whatever came to mind. She probably didn't mean any harm, but her comments had hurt me more than once or twice. Even so, when David and Karen asked me to take care of her, I couldn't just brush them off. So we decided to invite Victoria over to our house to celebrate her new job.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting me.
After flashing a smile as bright as a flower, Victoria scanned me from head to toe, then let out an exaggerated sigh.
Mary, did you gain some weight? You can't let that happen. With such a handsome husband like Frank, you've got to be a woman who matches him, right? Frank, don't you agree?
With a sweet tone that practically added a heart at the end of her words and a coy tilt of her head, Victoria glanced up at Frank. He gave a nervous laugh, slightly flustered. It seemed even for Frank, who wasn't used to dealing with women, Victoria was the kind of person he found difficult to handle. If we just treat her to dinner once, it'll save face with David and Karen. Let's just get through tonight. Thinking this, I invited Victoria inside house. I had no idea that this evening would mark the beginning of something unimaginable. Even so, I couldn't shake my unease throughout the night. That's because Victoria was sitting unnaturally close to Frank.
Oh, Frank, you're so funny and so handsome. You're the best.
She sat next to him, beaming as she spoke, deliberately emphasizing her neckline and constantly touching his arm. I had specifically offered her the chair next to me, but when I returned from the kitchen, she had somehow claimed the seat next to Frank. Typical. Hey, Victoria, what do you think you're doing? You're not even married yet. When I finally intervened, she pouted her perfectly shaped lips.
Not married yet. Mary, you sound so old-fashioned. I didn't get to talk much to Frank at your wedding, and every time I came home to visit, the timing was off. I just wanted to have a proper chat with him.
Well, that may be, but...
Or is it that Frank doesn't want to talk to me?
No, I wouldn't say that, but...
Then it's fine.
At Victoria's sweet voice and coy smile, Frank blushed and looked away, asking me for help. By the way, Frank, I think you got a call on your phone earlier. Why don't you go return it in the other room? I motioned toward his phone on the table. Frank jumped up as if he had been saved, grabbed his phone, and almost fled the room.
He left.
Victoria muttered, sounding genuinely disappointed, before bringing her plate to the sink where I was washing dishes.
You know, Mary, I thought this from the moment I first met him, but you really landed yourself a great guy.
Well, I suppose.
Seriously, I've never had a boyfriend on his level. I'm so jealous.
That one comment sent a chill down my spine. Come to think of it, Victoria had been the one gushing over Frank's looks more than anyone else at the wedding. Since middle school, there had always been a steady stream of men around Victoria. From what I knew, she'd had over 10 boyfriends. An indescribable sense of unease began to settle in my chest. After Victoria left, Frank retreated to the bedroom, completely exhausted. It seemed Victoria had taken a liking to Frank, but there was no way she would go after a married man. Especially since, even though it was by marriage, she was my niece. Judging by Frank's reaction, I thought there was no chance of things progressing any further. I was naive to think so. Victoria kept finding excuses to come over to our place. I couldn't exactly turn her away, and before I knew it, even Frank, who had been so nervous around her, started interacting with her with a smile. I wanted to spend more time with my husband, but unfortunately, Frank got busier with work, and I found myself spending more time alone. To fill the loneliness, I threw myself into work, holding on to the hope that if I got pregnant, Frank would return to the way he used to be. But that hope was shattered all too quickly. About a year after Victoria had moved nearby, Frank called me after work. That day happened to be my birthday. When was the last time Frank asked me out on a date? I was excited and put extra effort into touching up my makeup. Full of anticipation, I arrived at the cafe where we were supposed to meet. But what I saw stopped me in my tracks. What? There, sitting side by side, were Frank and Victoria, looking cozy together. What is this?
I'm sorry. I found my soulmate. That's why I need you to let me go.
Frank's words made my head spin with shock. Your soulmate? What are you talking about? This can't be real.
I'm sorry, Mary, but we couldn't help it. We were destined to be together. Right, Frank?
Victoria.
Watching the two of them gaze at each other dreamily made my blood boil. You really think I'm going to let this slide?
Even if you don't, I can't love you anymore. And besides,
What now?
she's carrying my child.
What? I was speechless. In disbelief, my eyes darted to Victoria's stomach, and she gave me a triumphant smile.
I told you, it's destiny. Proof of that is how quickly it happened. Or maybe it's just the age difference.
This can't be happening. He said he was busy with work. Seeing Frank avoid my gaze in silence, my suspicions turned into certainty. The work he'd been busy with had been a lie. Is it really your child? Frank looked down at me, his gaze as cold as if I were garbage.
What kind of question is that? Honestly, this is your fault. You kept nagging me to go to the doctor even though nothing was wrong. You turned our communication as a couple into some kind of task or chore.
That doesn't mean it's okay to cheat. All I ever wanted was to have a child with the man I loved. That's why I wanted him to see a doctor. I just wanted to explore the possibilities. A whirlwind of emotions swirled inside me, and I couldn't find the words to express them.
You used being busy with work as an excuse to slack off on household chores and neglect me. I was lonely, and she's the one who reminded me what it feels like to feel excitement again. Now that we're having a child, I don't need you in my life anymore.
Frank's cruel words cut into my heart. The memories of the happy days we spent discussing books we both loved flashed before my eyes like a slideshow. As Victoria leaned affectionately against Frank, caressing her stomach with a loving expression, Frank gently stroked her hair. The sight made my skin crawl. The girl I had cherished like my little sister had stolen Frank, my beloved husband. She now carried their baby I couldn't have, while I had been betrayed by them both. The weight of this unbearable reality pressed down on me. I felt the blood drain from my face, and my vision went dark. I didn't even have the strength to confront them. Frank calmly placed a completed divorce agreement on the table.
This decision is partly your responsibility too. I'll make sure you get proper alimony, so just sign it.
You expect me to sign this now?
Of course, Victoria won't feel secure until it's done. I want to minimize the stress on her body for the sake of our baby. I know you wouldn't understand, given your infertility.
With trembling hands, I picked up a pen. Do you even remember what day it is today?
What does that have to do with anything? I've got things to do, so just hurry up and sign.
His words delivered the final blow. My heart was already in shreds, and I only wanted to escape this unbearable space. Desperately, I moved my hand to sign it. The moment I finished, Frank checked the divorce papers and smiled with satisfaction.
That makes it official. We're divorced. Let's go, Victoria.
Poor Mary, over 30, infertile, and now divorced. Don't worry, we'll be happy enough for all of us.
Their voices faded into the distance. Leaving me in utter despair, the two of them disappeared without looking back. I couldn't move from my spot until the cafe closed. When the staff finally asked me to leave, I had no choice but to go home. What greeted me at the entrance was a pile of my belongings with a key to a storage unit and some cash placed on top. Most of the furniture and appliances in the apartment had originally been used by Frank when he lived alone. Anything of mine that couldn't be carried as luggage had apparently been dumped into the rental storage.
I'm giving you cash as a temporary fund, so please leave right away.
Frank said that to me, and it felt as if he was willing to pay just to end things and get rid of me as quickly as possible. Heartbroken, I fled and began living in a hotel. Before long, Frank, without any hesitation, wired a lump sum alimony payment that was significantly larger than expected, likely including Victoria's share as well. When I saw the sudden increase in my bank balance, something inside me snapped, and whatever faint feelings I still had for Frank and Victoria disappeared completely, leaving not a speck behind. A few days later, as I was slowly crawling out of the emotional abyss, I received a series of calls from my parents, David and Karen. They must have heard about Victoria's pregnancy and marriage. Whatever lies Frank and Victoria had spun, it was now being portrayed as Frank falling for Victoria as my marriage deteriorated, leading to an amicable divorce and a subsequent proposal.
Victoria's pregnant. When did you two divorce? What on earth happened?
Well, I found myself at a loss for words. It would have been easy to say it was all a lie, but I couldn't bear to dredge up the memories I had only just started to heal from. Yes, it's true we're divorced, and Victoria is carrying Frank's baby. I'm sorry, but I don't want to hear about those two anymore.
That tone tells me something happened. We need to sit down and talk about this as a family.
No, please. If you care about me, don't make me face them again. My desperate plea was finally accepted by them. Even though there's suspicion about the timing of the baby, knowing Victoria, she'd undoubtedly smooth it over with clever lies. Besides, with our divorce finalized and the alimony paid, there was no room left for emotional arguments. Any superficial apology would feel hollow and meaningless. Moreover, for my elderly parents, Victoria was their beloved granddaughter, and for David and Karen, she was their precious only daughter. I couldn't imagine my family abandoning a pregnant Victoria, and it was all too easy to picture them fussing over her and taking care of her. The thought made my body tremble with anger. I resented a world where someone like Victoria, who lived by stealing other people's husbands, was rewarded more than someone like me, who had lived honestly. After that, I quit my job. I decided to make a fresh start by moving to a new place and beginning a new life. My daily routine remained as modest and practical as ever, but I started going to a gym. Back in school, I was the type who dreaded gym class the most, preferring indoor activities. However, on weekends, I found myself restless, unable to sleep as unwanted memories resurfaced. During that time, my friend recommended trying out a free session at a gym, saying exercise might help. The first workout in ages was tough, but I became hooked on the feeling of negativity swirling inside me, being released with my sweat and the sense of accomplishment after finishing the routine. So I started going about once a week. One day, as I was quietly going through my workout without speaking to anyone, someone called out to me from behind.
Is that you, Mary?
Do I know anyone here? I turned toward the male voice and was stunned. It's Paul, right?
I knew it. Mary, it's been so long.
As he smiled shyly, distant memories came flooding back. Paul had been my classmate in high school. He was the serious, studious type who rarely spoke to anyone in class. But since we were similar in temperament, we often ended up talking to each other. Back then, he was unassuming, but now, standing before me, he was a refined, confident man with a charm that Frank never had. I couldn't help but feel a flutter in my heart. We had lost touch after graduation, but our conversation flowed easily during this unexpected reunion. From that day on, we started keeping in regular contact, and naturally, our friendship blossomed into a relationship. Sometime later, Paul proposed to me. I need to tell you something. I might not be able to have children.
Then we'll just live our lives together, the two of us.
His kind smile as he said those words made me realize I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. About a year after our reunion, we got married and held a small photo wedding at a tiny chapel, just the two of us. 2 years later, we were spending the day at an outlet mall. While taking a break in the food court, I felt a tap on my shoulder. When I turned around, I saw the two people I had hoped never to see again.
It's been a while. How have you been? Still as plain as ever, Mary.
Wow, you've aged, haven't you? Looking pretty rough.
Frank and Victoria smirked at me. Even in a public place like this, they had no qualms about belittling me as if it were the most natural thing in the world. There's a saying that people take after those they associate with, and the once dapper Frank, who had resembled an elite businessman, now looked like a flashy, overweight older man who matched Victoria perfectly. Why are they here on a weekday? Don't they have jobs? What do you want?
Hey, can we have your table?
Why? I sat here first.
Oh, come on. I know someone like you wouldn't understand, but it's really tough getting around with kids. Come on over, Cinderella.
I nearly spat out the water I was drinking. Excuse me, what did you just say? Peeking out from behind Victoria was a little girl around 3 years old, with long blonde hair tied back and wearing a dress. She had a cute face, but there was a certain sadness in her expression.
Isn't she beautiful? She's just like a real princess, don't you think?
Her hair. Wait, did you dye it?
Of course. You can't have a Cinderella without gorgeous blonde hair.
Dyeing such a young child's hair and calling her Cinderella? While I stood there, speechless, Victoria kept talking with a grin, seemingly misunderstanding my reaction.
Oh, right. Let me show you our baby. Here's Ariel.
With that, Victoria pulled back the stroller cover to show me. Inside was a baby who looked like she had only been born recently, peacefully sleeping.
Adorable, isn't she? Don't get jealous now, infertile woman.
Listen, In a world with declining birth rates, people like me who have kids are the most important. You're an adult, so worst case, you can stand while you eat, right? Now move.
No, I'm here with someone too. I wasn't the same person I used to be. Victoria, clearly not expecting me to talk back, glared at me in frustration. At that moment, a voice broke through.
Thanks for saving our seats, Mary.
Paul appeared with a smile, carrying 2 infants in his arms, and Frank and Victoria stared at him, mouths hanging open in shock.
What?
Ignoring their shock, Paul cheerfully continued,
I'm Paul, Mary's husband. These are our son and daughter.
Wait, whose kids are those?
"Whose do you think?" "They're mine, of course."
No way.
As the 2 froze, shouting in disbelief, Paul looked confused. Without paying them any mind, I took one of the babies from Paul, cradled them in my arms, and asked, "Hey, where's the stroller? Did you leave it in the kids' area?"
Oh, right. They reached out for me, and I ended up carrying them over. I'll grab it now.
I couldn't help but chuckle as Paul hurriedly turned on his heel. Seeing Frank and Victoria staring at me, holding my daughter, as if they couldn't believe their eyes, I decided to explain the situation to them. I remarried 2 years ago. These are my children with Paul.
But you were infertile.
Can't you see the child I'm holding? I wanted kids so badly that I tried again, thinking it might not work. And we conceived almost immediately. Twins, no less.
Really?
Frank forced a strained smile, his lips twitching awkwardly. Having abandoned me over infertility, he probably felt uncomfortable. Just then, Paul returned. He was pushing a double stroller, smiling shyly with a hint of embarrassment.
Sorry for the wait. Here, let's put them in. They've been playing a lot, so I bet they'll fall asleep soon.
I gently placed our daughter into the stroller. When I looked up, I noticed Victoria fidgeting and casting glances at Paul. Her gaze was that of a predator eyeing its prey.
Nice to meet you. So, your name is Paul? I'm Victoria, Mary's niece. I have kids too, and I'd love for us to get along.
Paul had been smiling politely, but his expression shifted to a frown. He glanced at me, and I gave him a knowing look, to which he nodded subtly. Seriously, showing such a blatant interest in Paul right in front of her own daughter and Frank? Sure, Paul is handsome, and compared to Frank, who's standing next to her, it's like night and day. Even Frank and Victoria's daughter seemed taken aback by Victoria's sudden shift in demeanor.
That's it. To strengthen family bonds, let's have a meal together.
Without waiting for permission, Victoria sat down at the table and instructed Frank to fetch a high chair for the kids. I immediately regretted choosing a 4-person table with extra space.
You're so handsome. What do you do for work? Wait, you're a doctor. A good-looking doctor? That's amazing.
Ignoring her own family, Victoria spoke to Paul in a sugary tone, talking nonstop. I couldn't help but scoff at her. The same tactics as 3 years ago. Planning to steal Paul from me this time too? Victoria flinched visibly. She quickly raised her head and smiled at Paul with a coy look.
Did you hear that? Mary always says such mean things because she feels like she can't compete with me as a woman.
Her long nails slowly, almost deliberately, inched toward Paul's hand.
I just want to get to know you better, Paul. I'd like you to know more about me too.
The moment Victoria reached out to take Paul's hand, a sharp slap echoed.
Enough. Stop this right now.
What?
Victoria froze, looking stunned, as if she had never experienced rejection from a man before.
I know all about you too. After what you did, I can't believe you have the audacity to show your faces in front of Mary.
It's often said that beautiful people can appear intimidating when angry, and Paul, with his refined looks, was no exception. His frosty gaze bore down on Victoria, who looked utterly baffled by the treatment she was receiving.
Well, you shouldn't believe everything a divorced woman says.
Undivorced too.
Oh my God.
Victoria faltered, quickly silenced by Paul's sharp reply. 3 years ago, on the day we reconnected, I learned that Paul had also been through his divorce. His ex-wife had been careless with money and unfaithful in her relationships, which caused him to lose patience and ultimately divorce her. I shared that I had gone through a similar ordeal, confessing the chaos that had unfolded in my own life. He was outraged on my behalf, as if it had happened to him. Because we had both experienced similar pain, I was confident we would never betray each other.
Well, you know me from stories you've heard, right?
Does this help clarify?
Paul pulled a thick pair of glasses out of his bag, the kind he used regularly at work, and put them on. Then he covered his mouth with a handkerchief.
No way. Doctor?
Correct.
Victoria's face turned pale as she looked down, while Frank and I stared in confusion, unsure of what was happening. As Paul put away his glasses, he calmly spoke.
I know Victoria from a professional perspective, as a doctor and patient. I didn't know her name at the time, and I certainly didn't realize she was the person Mary had been talking about.
His words made me gasp as the pieces clicked into place.
So, what does that mean?
Paul and I exchanged a glance. Paul likely wouldn't say it outright. Paul's clinic is an obstetrics practice, and I wasn't infertile. You can figure out the rest.
Oh?
Frank's eyes darted toward our twin daughters.
No way. You're kidding, right?
That's not true. It's all lies, every bit of it. And you, how can you just stand there and say nothing while I'm being humiliated like this?
You're the one who started flirting with other men when you had me.
Flirting? You? In the last few years, you've gotten so fat, you're not even a man to me anymore. You're just an ATM.
Victoria screamed, her voice filled with rage, while Frank stood there, stunned and motionless.
I didn't do anything wrong. Nothing at all. I just want to be happy. I just want to live happily ever after with my prince.
Her eyes unfocused, as she muttered to herself, left Frank pale and speechless. As the stares of those around us intensified, Frank's mouth opened and closed, as if begging for help, but no words came out.
Do something about this. She's your niece, and I'm the man who used to be your husband. If you help, I'll go home and explain everything about you to the family.
I don't need that.
What?
I'm already on good terms with my family, and I've cut ties with Victoria. I even visit home from time to time. I just don't stay long because I don't want to see either of you. You and I are strangers now, and I have no reason to help you. You're the one who chose Victoria. Take your responsibility and bring her home. Frank, looking flustered, dragged Victoria away from the scene as if trying to escape the growing commotion. Left behind with the stroller, The little girl stood frozen with a vacant expression. I gently spoke to her. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. It's okay. I'll call your grandparents to come and get you. Her face lit up immediately. I called David and Karen. They were reasonable people. Back then, both of them had come to apologize to me together.
If you ever need anything, we're here to help.
Feel free to reach out anytime.
It was also David and Karen who convinced my hesitant parents to sever ties with Victoria. A short while later, David and Karen arrived in a hurry. The little girl lit up with joy and threw herself into their arms. Seeing her finally smile like a child, I let out a relieved sigh.
Giving her a strange name, dyeing her hair, and now abandoning her.
David's softly muttered words tightened my chest. The biggest victims in all of this were the children. I'm sorry,
No, this isn't your fault. The kids aren't to blame either. We tried to help for the grandchildren's sake, but they misunderstood it as support for themselves. I had a feeling it might come to this someday. Don't worry. We'll handle it from here.
David hugged his granddaughter tightly, then bid us farewell before disappearing into the crowd. Later, David and Karen filled me in on what had happened. Since that incident, Victoria's behavior had spiraled out of control. Whenever something upset her, she took it out on objects or Frank. She had never prioritized parenting or household chores, leaving them entirely to a housekeeper.
I want to reclaim my lost youth.
With that excuse, Victoria frequently left her two daughters with David and Karen so she could go out partying, and her behavior only worsened over time. Seeing that I, who was once believed to be infertile, now had twins, Frank fell into doubt and secretly conducted a DNA test without Victoria knowing. As a result, he discovered that neither of the two daughters was biologically his, and Frank's anger exploded. Around the same time, Frank was demoted at work. It turned out that since marrying Victoria, his tardiness and absenteeism had increased, causing him to fall off the fast track he'd once been on. The two had a massive fight, blaming each other for everything. Their marriage became irreparably broken, and they eventually divorced. One small blessing in this unfortunate situation was that, since that day, the two daughters had been staying with David and Karen, so they were spared from witnessing their parents' constant fighting. Neither Victoria nor Frank ever came to take the girls back, so David and Karen decided to raise their granddaughters themselves. Even if either parent tried to take them back, they wouldn't hand the girls over unless the environment was suitable. I hope those girls grow up happy with their grandparents who genuinely care for them. Later, through social media, I stumbled upon Victoria's account.
I want to see my daughters, but it's probably better they don't have someone like me as their parent. I need money, but I don't want to work. All I get on apps are old creeps messaging me. Give me a break.
From her stream of complaints and depressive poetry, it seemed Victoria had spiraled into a lifestyle of clubbing and excessive spending, which ultimately ruined her. For a while, she relied on various men for support, but now she was working in nightlife to make ends meet while paying off her debts. Poor thing. What will she do when she can no longer trade on her youth and beauty? The twins, who had been sleeping in their crib, started crying, calling for me. You're awake now. I closed her page, put my phone aside, and went to my beloved children. After that, I never looked at her social media again. 6 months later, on a weekend, we went to a beautiful tourist spot known for its flowers. It was a large group of 10 people in total, including my parents, David and Karen, Victoria's children, and my own family. Everyone brought food to share, and we planned to enjoy the outing together. The children Victoria had left behind seemed much healthier and happier than when they were with Victoria and Frank. According to David and Karen, they were considering legal adoption in the future. It's still a mystery how someone like Victoria came from such kind and responsible people as David and Karen. I hope someday we can look back on all of this as nothing more than a funny story. As the conversation picked up and everyone was enjoying themselves, Paul sat next to me with a sly grin. "What's going on?" Confused by his unusual demeanor, I watched as he quietly moved behind me.
Happy birthday.
"What is this?" He placed a necklace around my neck, one inspired by my favorite story. "Is this?"
Thank you for everything. I'm looking forward to more of it.
I have someone who loves me and children I adore. 4 years ago today, I was in despair. I endured pain and heartbreak, but I stayed true to myself and kept living honestly. Now I couldn't be happier.